President Trump, did President Biden leave you a letter?
It seemed like Donald Trump might stick with tradition and keep Joe Biden's handwritten letter to him private, as has always been the tradition of presidents past, not to disclose the contents.
Maybe we should all read it together.
Let's read it.
But this being norm-busting Trump,
this is history.
3 days later, the letter found its way into Fox News' hands.
History-making text.
In it, Joe Biden said, "The American people and people around the world look to this House for steadiness in the inevitable storms of history, and my prayer is that the coming years will be a time of prosperity, peace, and grace for our nation."
Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
But Trump seems disinclined to give Biden peace in retirement, at least. In a TV interview last night, Trump implied he might even have Republicans investigate his predecessor.
The funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. I mean, the money went to him.
Should Congress investigate that?
Well, I don't know. It's, you know,
Will you order the DOJ?
I've always been, look, he didn't give himself a pardon.
But when pressed about the controversial pardons Trump himself gave to the January the 6th rioters, even those who admitted to beating police, this was his response.
Some of those people with the police, true, but they were very minor incidents. They were very minor incidents.
Police officer Daniel Hodges wouldn't say what happened to him was a minor incident. He was so outraged by Trump's pardons, he came to the Capitol yesterday to remind the world about the horror he experienced on January the 6th.
They called me a traitor, telling me to remember my oath. I was beaten, crushed, kicked, punched, surrounded. Someone reached underneath my visor, tried to gouge out my eye. And all these people were just pardoned by Donald Trump, who says that they were the real victims, that they were the patriots. I don't understand how anyone can believe that.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the Capitol, Stuart Rhodes, the newly released leader of the far-right group, the Oath Keepers, roamed freely through the very same corridors his militiamen had ransacked. And Enrico Tarrio, the head of the extremist Proud Boys, flew back to Miami from his jail cell where he'd served just over 12 months of a 22-year sentence. What's your immediate feeling seeing him out and free and walking?
It's gross. I mean, he's a seditionist militia leader. He has no business being free. It's after such a short time into a sentence. It's obvious that he has no capacity for self-reflection or remorse, and has plans. Plans that I can't imagine would be helpful to the country.
Harry Dunn is another police officer who was beaten by rioters on January the 6th, who now feels betrayed by Trump's pardons.
Many of the officers that were brutally assaulted that day are the same officers who protected Donald Trump on Monday. Think about that for a minute. Just sit with that for a minute. The same people that Donald Trump sent to a mob to attack are the same people that made sure he was safe on Monday.
Dunn was not among those police officers because he quit the force after January the 6th. But Daniel Hodges was there.
For Donald Trump's second inauguration, working to make sure that the transfer of power was peaceful.
Just as the president was working to make sure the men who assaulted him and so many other police officers were freed from jail.
Siobhan Kennedy reporting. Well, let's talk now to the Republican strategist, Douglas Hay. Douglas, it's good to see you here on the freezing roof.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
Let's start with these pardons. I mean, there are a lot of people, including in your party, in the Republican Party, who are just disgusted by the fact that these people have been pardoned when they were assaulting police officers, and you're supposed to be the party of law and order.
Yeah, it's obviously contradictory. And one of the things that we've seen is a lot of Republicans have spoken out and a lot haven't. And if Donald Trump had just convicted some of those who were on the Capitol grounds or maybe even gone in but not engaged in violence, the party would have been able to, as a whole, sort of write it off. but some of these being very violent offenders, there's still concern. The question is,
Are you upset?
I'm very upset about it. And I worked in the Capitol, and on that day, I packed a go bag in case I was going to have to evacuate about a 10-minute walk from the Capitol. So it affects me personally. A lot of the police officers are those who just showed Harry Dunn. I know Harry. I've known him for years. And so it's very troubling. But in our political system, I think we should also remember as well that one of the things that Donald Trump does very well is he plays the role of a matador. And he flaps his red cape to distract everybody away and have them follow that. And when Democrats are talking about this, what they're not doing then, or the media, is talking about those issues that got Donald Trump elected, talking about jobs and the economy.
But what was Donald Trump? He says he obviously he wants interest rates to come down. And he wants to lower the price of eggs, but he's spending a lot more time talking about January the 6th and grievances.
And I think he knows that if that is the focus, he can do other things that don't get as much attention.
What about the challenge from a federal judge in Seattle today, and it might be the first of many challenges, to the end of birthright citizenship?
Look, ultimately, most people don't think it's going to go anywhere. And one of the things that Trump does...
that Trump won't succeed.
Trump will not succeed. Basically, this is enshrined very clearly in the Constitution. There have been challenges to this in the past, that going back 100 years ago, that the Supreme Court has just wholly rejected. And what Donald Trump does often is he gets into a fight that whether he wins it or not, he knows that his base will reward him for engaging in the fight. Winning it is almost secondary.
But, he won the election. He won't be able to have another election as president unless he tries to change the Constitution. Do you think he might?
He will talk about it. It won't happen.
Okay. You're sure about that?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Okay. What about, the coins, the money that he raised with his own name and his wife's name? This is the kind of stuff that if that happened in, Latin America, you would be saying, look, typical banana republic behavior.
If it happened with a Democratic president, we'd be saying that. Donald Trump would be saying
yes.
Look, Donald Trump is
but
not exactly...
Are you okay with that?
No,
you used to work for George Bush.
Of course not.
Who was controversial in his own way.
I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I wrote in Mike Pence because he did the right thing on January 6th. There are Republicans who, at best, want to look away and not pay attention to this. It is troubling. It should be troubling. But again, I say, those issues that got Trump elected, if you want to defeat Donald Trump, that's where you have to be. And especially because if Donald Trump isn't going to stand for election again, then he has nothing to fear as far as electoral impacts. He can do whatever he wants.
Is America becoming a banana republic under Donald Trump?
No, but there should be reasons for concern, and what you've outlined are those reasons.
And, the Republican Party seems to be completely in hock to him. When will the Republican Party actually stand up and say, not on our watch, we don't stand for this?
Well, it tried to on January 6th, 7th, and 8th, and so forth. And ultimately that went away. So I don't see a whole lot of real opposition within the party. I do hear it privately, but you hear it very sparingly publicly. You'll hear on some issues, but when it's kind of wrapped around the core of Trump, Republicans don't want to go after him on anything like that.
And just finally, golden age for America?
Well, we'll see. But one of the things that I thought was interesting in Trump's remarks to Davos is how he talked about Europe. And especially if you look at what Germany's done over the past 15, 20 years with energy production. Are the next 20 years going to be a golden age for Germany or Spain? No.
I think actually many people there might even agree with you. Douglas Hay, thank you very much indeed.